Thanks, Carl. And thank you, Carl, for the invitation to come here and take part in your meeting tonight. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm not saying that because it sounds nice or I need you to like me. I'm saying it because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'm a guy who considers it a privilege to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I consider it a privilege to come here and be part of the meeting tonight, and to see my good friend Carl, who I've known for many years now. And oh man, I just can never get used to talking to a computer. I have a hard time just turning a computer on, let alone talking on one. I just finally gave up, Carl, my BlackBerry a month ago, and it's been a real hard time for me adapting to this new technology. So you can imagine how I do with this. I'm gonna just I want to just let you know the kind of guys you got with you before I start tonight. I've been saying since Zoom started. Now I'll tell you something else in a second. I can never just stay on track, but I've been saying no to Zoom meetings, and I have some dear friends, and they have been very kind to me about it for the most part. But it dawned on, listen to this, it dawned on me recently, the real truth of it is for me, for the Zoom meetings is self-centered and self-centered fear and all that crap around that. That I'm more concerned about how I'm going to sound on this thing than maybe being helpful to somebody else. And that's about as selfish as I can possibly be. And I want you to know that that's how I can be at 31 years sober. And I say that to you because I just want you to know I need you every bit as much today, probably more than I ever have in my life. Because it is incredible to me how self can start to rebuild and create my life in different ways that I don't ever see. So Carl had called me, and I said, and I have a hard time saying no to friends. These are guys that I've asked to do a million things, have never said no, and here I am saying no. So Carl called me and said, "Are you ready to do this?" And Joe had been after me, and I said, Carl, I've been incredibly selfish. He says, "I'm glad you finally see that." You can count on your friends, can't you? So I'm happy to be here tonight. I really and truly am. And I do my home groups on Zoom. We meet Mondays and Thursdays, and I do another half a dozen things with guys I sponsor. And it's nice to be here tonight and see some friends that I haven't seen, some dear friends. It just overwhelms me at times when I come to things like this. I really want to say a great thank you to the folks that put these on night after night, week after week. We have been so blessed, our fellowship, to have this available to us in this time when we can't be together physically. It is an incredible thing. The more I've been around this, I got to tell you, the more astounded I am by it. Like, to think that and like sometimes I can't separate. I think maybe I'm in California. It's just the most wildest thing that I could ever imagine, this whole thing. So it's good to be here, and I want to thank the people that make this possible, that we can come here and be together, and guys like Joe that tape it, that can people, I've always been a CD guy, or cassette when I first got here. But one of the wonderful things is today that people I listened to on those things when I was brand new, I've got to be friends with many of them all these years later, and that's a special thing for me. Carl didn't tell me what time I got to stop, but I'll stop. I'll be half asleep by the time I finish this. This is late for me. My home group is the Three Legacy Group, Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays just north of the city. If you're ever there, we'd love to have you there. I'm a group guy. I believe in the home group. I'm a guy that believes that the home group is the heartbeat of AA. That's not podium banter. I believe it with all my heart. I believe we need to be anchored in a home group if we're going to be successful in the program. I believe we can only be as effective as the group that supports us. I think if I'm going to be effective in understanding that, I need to have the support of a strong home group. I need to be able to bring new people to a group where recovery is happening. And so I belong to a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to say I belong to the best group in the world. I don't say that any longer. I find it very arrogant of me. But I belong to a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous. I belong to a group where all three legacies are in place, where recovery's there, where we study and teach the 12 steps out of our basic text, personal recovery. But I belong to a group that operates under the umbrella of our traditions of unity. And I belong to a group that believes in service as a group, not just one or two individuals constantly doing everything, but we operate together and work together as a group to carry the message. We don't just open the door and hope people come. We go get them. We carry the message. We have committees that go to our detox every Monday and Thursday and bring those people to our meeting. We have a beginners meeting on Monday night so those new people can come and find out some things. We can find out what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what Alcoholics Anonymous isn't, what Alcoholics Anonymous does and what it doesn't do. I don't know if you do this in California or not, but we hear all the time, I hear chair people from the front of the room say, join a group and get a sponsor, to people who are there from a detox, like they somehow know what that means. So we have meetings where we can explain to them what sponsorship is, what it looks like. I belong to a group. If you ever come to our home group, there'll be 6 or 8 people at that front door to welcome you when you get there. I'm a guy that believes that's the single most important thing that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous as a home group. The single most important thing is to be at that door when that new guy or new gal walk through for their first meeting. Because I'm going to tell you, an in-depth version of step 4 doesn't mean a damn thing to them. But a warm handshake, welcome, get a cup of coffee and come and sit here with us means a great, great deal. I belong to a group where there's enthusiasm. You're going to find this hard to believe tonight, but I'm an enthusiastic guy. I like enthusiasm. Don't you love it at your home group when you go there? I'd love to be at this group in real person. Carl, maybe one day I can come there because I see a lot of new folks and that's who I love being with most. But don't you love that before the meeting starts in that room, that chatter's in the room, the buzz is in the room, the laughter's in the room. It's just like being in a bar. It's beautiful. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Nobody listening. Alcoholics, the most self-centered people in the world. You ever tried to talk to somebody after the meeting? 10 people walk up and say, I don't mean to interrupt. Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. I love that laughter in the room. It's important that we have that laughter in the room. It's important that those new folks realize that we're not a glum lot and that we absolutely insist upon enjoying life. And there's much more to Alcoholics Anonymous than just not drinking and going to meetings. So I am happy and honored to be here at a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous in Covina, California. That is for sure. On September the 21st, 1989, 2 men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. Now that should tell you something right there if you're new. My mother's house. Somewhere every 33-year-old self-respecting alcoholic should be is with his mummy. 2 men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. They made the effort to leave their homes that night. They drove to my mother's house, came to my mother's house, and talked to me about their drinking. They did not talk to me about my drinking. They did not tell me I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't drug, I should go to treatment. They didn't tell me nothing. Those 2 men came to my mother's house that night, talked to me about their drinking, told me what had happened in their lives since they came to something called Alcoholics Anonymous. Would I like to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with them? I was a helpless, hopeless, chronic alcoholic. I'd been running the streets, drinking whiskey and sticking needles in my arms since I was 13 years old. And those 2 men came to my mother's house that night, took me to my first meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been with you ever since that night. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I want to tell you that I'm extremely grateful for that experience, because that's not everybody's experience that comes to Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of people come to Alcoholics Anonymous, return to drinking, and come back to AA. A lot of people come to Alcoholics Anonymous, return to drinking many times, and come back to AA. Some people come to Alcoholics Anonymous, return to drinking, and never come back to AA. But that was my experience, and I'm grateful for it. The other thing I'm grateful for is I've loved coming here from that first meeting, from that first night, that very first night. There was something in that room that night. I didn't know what it was that night. I know what it is today. It was hope. I left that meeting that night with a little bit of hope. And I hadn't had any hope in a long time. So I've loved coming to Alcoholics Anonymous since the very first. I love going to meetings. I love going to conferences. I love going to workshops, assemblies, service days. I love listening to the story of an alcoholic, and the seedier, the better. So I have no regrets since the day I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, up to and including tonight, other than one. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes meet some people around here and I think to myself, I wish I would have done a little drinking with him. We are a cast of characters in this outfit, aren't we? You couldn't make some of this stuff up that goes around here. This is the greatest show in the world. So I am happy to be here and be a part of it. I was 4 years old and my mom had me downtown at the Five and Dime. She was doing a little bit of shopping and that, and she looked around. She couldn't see me anywhere, so she started going up and down the aisles looking for me. She couldn't find me anywhere. She started to get a little panicky. She looked out the front door of the store. I'm not there. Now she's scared. My dad worked at a little downtown bank. She ran to that bank. She said, Bob, Butch is lost. I can't find him. My dad comes over the counter. They're back at that store. They're looking. They can't see me. They're scared. Something's happened. They went to that little local police station. They went to that police station. There was a police officer behind the desk, and they went in. They said, we've lost our little boy. And the guy said, is he a little blonde-haired boy with the red shirt? And it was like, oh, relief, huh? They found him. My ma says, yeah, that's him. He said, well, we had him, and we lost him. We lost him. And he took the keys to the cells with him. Now, I'm going to tell you, there was a time 20 years later, I wished I had those keys back. I'm 11 years old or so, and I'm in a classroom in school, and the teacher announces that there's going to be a walkathon where you get people to pledge money, and you walk a lot of miles, and the poor people get the money from the pledges. She said, I want you to come up here to the front and take one of these sheets to get your pledges on. Well, I sat at the back of the room where the smart kids sit. And I made a conscious decision from the time I got to the back of the room to the front of the room, I'm taking two sheets. Some of you are with me, aren't you? One for the poor people, one for me. I figure if I'm walking, I'm getting some of the green. And that's how I was to go through the next 20 years of my life. Lying, cheating, and stealing. Some sort of sense of entitlement. That I don't have to go out and do a hard day's work for a good day's pay. I'm going to go out in that world and take what I want. You see, I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot, and I haven't even started doing serious drinking yet. I'm 25 years old, and my wife by now has thrown me out of our home. And I want to tell you that I loved her as much as I was capable of loving at that time. It's important that I say that to you, as much as I was capable of loving. I had a new address each night. I lived in the stairwells of apartment buildings on Eglinton Avenue in downtown Toronto. I just went from building to building. I had a new address each night. And at nighttime, I was under that stairwell. In the daytime, I was like a rat in a sewer, out in the streets looking to score, looking to scam, looking to rip somebody off to get the money I need to get to do the things I need to do. I hear people in Alcoholics Anonymous talk about AA luggage, matching green garbage bags. Huh? I didn't have any AA luggage. Had the clothes on my back, though, Joe. Still had an ultra suede jacket. Gonna look good at any expense. I'm 25 years old. I've lived in stairwells, and nobody in this world wants anything more to do with me. I'm in the East End of Toronto one night and all jacked up and nowhere to go. As I said, my wife and I had owned a home in what they call the beaches of Toronto, down near the lakefront. And we had a screened-in porch and a couple wicker couches. And I thought, I'm going to slip in there and get a couple hours and get out before she wakes up in the morning. Well, I pass out, and I wake up to one of these. And I opened my eyes and looked, and there was that little gal that I loved. And she looked at me with disgust and pity. And she said, Butch, you're a useless piece of scum, and you will never change. And if you cared anything about me, you would get up and get out of here, and please don't ever come back, because I can't stomach to look at you. And I got up and I left there, and it was a hot, hot summer day like you guys are having in Arizona, hot, humid. I'm hungover, I'm dope sick, I'm dirty, and I'm heart sick. And I walked down to the lakefront and on what they call the boardwalk. And I was sitting down there in that condition on a park bench. And over a dozen feet away, there was another bench, and there was a little boy sitting there eating a popsicle. And I looked over at that little boy, and you know what I thought to myself? Wish I had a dime for a popsicle. The big shot, the dope dealer, Everybody's friend, good old Butch, sitting on a park bench wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Nobody in this world wanting anything more to do with me. And here was the thought that I had at that moment, as clear as I'm thinking right now. I knew at that moment that that park bench or places like it was where I was going to end up every single time. And I knew it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I was 25 years old. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33. I had 8 more years on those streets. And I will not bore you tonight with a horror story because I don't believe it would serve any purpose. You see, if you're alcoholic of my type, you already know it never gets better. It always gets worse. And I had 8 more years on those streets. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33 and I joined a group and I got a sponsor. And I did the things you guys told me to do. Forget this suggested crap, the stuff you told me to do. You know where I was a number of years ago, huh, Joe? Rome, Italy. Rome, Italy. Standing in the Sistine Chapel, looking at the painting of Michelangelo from hundreds of years before. My wife standing beside me, and the tears started to roll down my cheeks. And I thought of that guy sitting on the park bench wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Long way from that park bench to the Sistine Chapel in Rome. It is a long way from where you and I come from. Many of us here tonight, the dredges of society. Many of us here tonight, our own families didn't want us any longer. Yet here we sit tonight, members of Alcoholics Anonymous, living good, rich, full, productive lives. And many of us here just starting that journey to a full, productive life. How do we get from where we were to where we are today? How does that happen for you and I? Because it's not supposed to happen for you and I. But you know how it happens, don't you? It happens one way and only one way. And that is through the grace of God, through a loving God, a forgiving God, a caring God that you introduced me to through the 12 Steps Alcoholics Anonymous and a fellowship called Alcoholics Anonymous. You sure want to believe that I'm grateful to be here and be a part of this society. I started to drink at an early age. I hear people talk about dysfunctional families. Was my family dysfunctional? I have no idea. Let me just tell you, it wasn't the Cleaver residence at my home. There was lots of parties at my home, lots of drinking all the time, always on the weekend a party. As a little boy, they'd let me play bartender. I could take them drinks and take away the empties. They'd let me have swigs. They'd say, "Isn't he cute?" And I loved that attention. So I started to drink when I was 4 years old. Now, I wasn't a daily drinker when I was 4. My allowance wouldn't allow it. I actively sought out alcohol. I was 12 or 13 years old. I got a guy to go into a liquor store, get us a couple bottles of wine, a couple bottles of Old Sailor. I think that's comparable to what you call Thunderbird in your country. And I'll tell you, any wine I ever drank had a cap, not a cork. We drank that wine, we got drunk, puked, and passed out, and that was the end of my social drinking, all downhill from there. I hear people in Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't know if you have this in California or not, but I hear people in meetings I go to here, and they say things like that they came to Alcoholics Anonymous hoping Alcoholics Anonymous was going to help them become a social drinker. Joe Ben, you hear that at home? Came to Alcoholics Anonymous hoping Alcoholics Anonymous was going to help them become a social drinker. Let me tell you tonight, I didn't want to be a social drinker when I drank. I don't want to be a social drinker tonight. I don't particularly like social drinkers. I find them weird. Weird. You ever watch a social drinker drink? They let the ice melt in their glass. That's sick drinking. You ever drink with a social drinker? It's enough to make you puke, isn't it, Dick? You're having a few scoots. Would you like another one? Oh, no, thanks. I'm starting to feel it. Oh, really? I thought that's when you put it in overdrive. Social drinkers. My wife's just out in the living room. My little D, Joe, and some of the boys know D real good. My wife's a social drinker. I'm going to tell you something. A little while ago, I'm here out in the kitchen and that, and I look, we have an open concept home, and Dee's in the kitchen, and I look over, she's got a bottle of wine on the counter, on the kitchen counter with a funnel in it. I thought, what's she doing with that funnel? So I watched her, and she took a glass of wine and started pouring it in the funnel. I said to her, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" She says to me, "I put too much in the glass." Oh, Jesus, Murphy. I said, "Don't you ever do that again. I'll divorce you, social drinker." I'm a barroom drinker. I don't identify with closet alcoholics. I'm not saying they're not alcoholic. I just don't identify. You know, you hear those people, they get the bottle and go home and lock the door and put on the country western music. I don't identify. Barroom drinker, love bars, love them, Colleen. I like opening the door to a bar, the smoke it billow out, the tinkle of glass, the smell of stale urine. I love it. I love it. And I got to tell you this, I like neon. I thank God I like neon when I was drinking. I still like neon. That's why I stay out of those casinos. They're not good for guys like me. But I got to tell you this, I thank God I never tried to get sober in the United States of America. I don't know if I'd have made it. God, I love to drink in your country. I love it. You got many more than we got here. I call them juke joints. You know those divey, scuzzy little bars you see? With the little neon sign outside says cocktails. Oh. I went to an AA thing a number of years ago in Pennsylvania. I decided to drive. My wife come with me. I'm driving through this little town in the middle of nowhere. I'm going down the main street and I hammer on the brakes to my car. I'm back in my car. My wife said to me, Butch, what are you doing? I said, I got to see this again. There it was, guys. This divey little rat hole bar had a neon sign, said stop for one, stay till one. If I'd have been drinking, I'd have had that tattooed on me. Loved it. I'm not going to talk any more about my drinking tonight other than to quickly share with you, particularly the folks that are new. I want to welcome the folks. I know that we have some folks in some recovery homes and that. I see a whole bunch of them there. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. Welcome. Welcome. You're the reason that we're here. You are the reason that we're here. I'm not going to talk anymore about drinking, but I want to share with you new folks what drinking does for an alcoholic of my type. I don't know if you identify, but I hope you do. The things that I'm going to share with you, I did not know this when it was happening. I had no idea. I saw it in inventory. I saw it as you took me back through my life and helped me see my life honestly for the first time ever. But as I look back today, I remember being a young boy in school. I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old. I'd be in that classroom, the teacher would ask a question, she'd start looking around the room to see if she's going to ask to answer the question, and my head would go down. Because I knew if she made eye contact with me, she'd ask me to answer the question, and I didn't want to answer the question. It didn't even matter if I know the answer to the question, I don't want to answer the question. When I went to school, we used to have to do book report. Get up in front of the whole classroom full of kids? No good. No good. I get up in the morning, I'd say, Ma, I've been puking all night. I'm sick. I can't go to school today. Please don't make me go. Because I want to tell you that I would be absolutely terrified at the thought of getting up in front of that classroom full of kids. Every decision I made in my life was based on fear. Most of it unfounded and ungrounded. Where I go, what I do, who I hang out with. I don't know about any of you guys, but I every now and then would get goofy. I'd go on about a 5-day run. I'd come home after being gone for 5 days. My wife would be waiting there on a Sunday. I'd walk in, I'd say, sweetheart, that's it. No more. I mean, no, I know I said this last week, but this time I swear my ma's life, I'm never having another drink of whiskey. That's Sunday. I wake up Monday and I think to myself, I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I'd have to go to a wedding that following Saturday. You ever go to a wedding sober? That's a bad deal. That is a bad deal. I would be at that church sweating, thinking about the reception that's going to start in 3 hours. I'm back at that reception and the dance is going to start and I don't have anything in me and my hands are sweaty. I got a knot in the bottom of my gut. I feel awkward and out of place and it is just horrible. And I have to do one of two things. I got to get over to that bar and get a couple drinks into me, or I got to get out of there. Because I can't stand the way I feel. And every decision I make is based on that fear. You want to know what kills an alcoholic like me? I don't even know I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid of nothing, and I'm afraid of everything, and I don't even know it. We talk an awful lot at these meetings. I go to these topic meetings. Let's discuss resentments. I prefer to call it hate. Hate. I know you're not that sick in Covina, but we are in Toronto. Hate. I'm the type of alcoholic, I'd be driving my car, I'm at a red light and that light would turn green and the guy behind me lays on his horn. I almost go through the roof of my car. I want to get out of my car, go back there, open the door, drag him out by his throat, take a crowbar and crack his skull open. I know you nice people never thought thoughts like that. But I do. I'm not talking anger management here. I'm talking rage. I'm talking the kind of anger that I don't have 10 minutes before and I don't have 10 minutes after. But I have an anger inside of me that comes out every now and then, and I can't control it. And I say things or do things to people I never wanted to say or do. And you want to know who takes the brunt of my rage? The people who love me, the people who care about me. It happens behind closed doors because I'm a guy who's constantly seeking your approval. So the people whose approval I think I already have, that's who takes the brunt of my rage. Lonely. I'm standing at a subway platform on a Friday night, all jacked up, and a train pulls up and the doors open and a young couple my age got off that train holding hands. And they walked off into the night laughing and smiling. And I looked at that couple and I felt sad. I thought, why can't I be like those people? Why has all the trouble got to keep happening in my life time and time again? I just like to be like other people. From as long as I can ever remember, I was restless, irritable, and discontented. If I was at this bar, I should be at that bar. If I had this job, another job, this wife, your wife, didn't matter. Never in the right place from as long as I can remember. Full of fear, lonely, anger. And I don't know about you guys, but I'll tell you, I get one of those double vodkas. Oh, man. And I'll tell you something, those sweaty hands would go away. That knot in my stomach was gone. The rage subsides and the loneliness vanishes. And I walk into that wedding like I own the joint. And I am moving and grooving. And I'm talking to the ladies and I'm sitting with my buddies and we're drinking and snorting and carrying on. And at that moment, everything in my life is absolutely perfect. The sweaty hands are gone. Everything's gone. And I get an immediate, not in 28 days, an immediate sense of ease and comfort. And that is why I drink whiskey. Same wedding, same food, same music, same hall, same people. But you put 3 or 4 vodkas in me and my perception of reality changes. And I feel A1 at once. And that's why I drink whiskey, because I like the effects it produces. But I'm alcoholic. Something happens to me that doesn't happen to the non-alcoholic called a phenomenon of craving. And I start drinking. I end up drinking 60 ounces of vodka and I smash up my car. I go out after work for a few beers with the guys. I go on a 5-day bender. I get fired from my job. I tell my wife I'm going out for a loaf of bread. I come home 3 months later. My wife's leaving. I'm out there drinking, drugging, partying, carrying on. I don't want to stop. I got no money, so I'm stealing yours. And now I go to jail. And what everybody focused on in my life was crash cars, broken marriages, lost jobs, going to jails. We looked at drinking. We looked at drinking. We never looked at alcoholism. And people told me from the time I was 18 years old, if I just quit drinking whiskey and sticking needles, I'd be all right. And there was times I wasn't drinking whiskey, and guess what? I wasn't all right. As a matter of fact, I was crazier sober than I ever was when I drank. But all those well-meaning people could see was that when I drank, the trouble that followed. So naturally, they said, stop drinking. You'll be all right. I'd love to stand up or sit here tonight and tell you I woke up one morning, the finance company was dying to lend me money, work was thinking of promoting me, and my wife was sending me flowers. And I thought, I think I'll join AA today. Every now and then I hear some moron from the front of one of these rooms say things like, if you're not here for the right reasons, you might as well drink. And every now and then I'd like to get the tire iron back out. The right reasons? Did you come to Alcoholics Anonymous for the right reasons? I come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I had nowhere else to go. One more time, my back was against the wall. My boss called me into work on a Tuesday. He said, Butch, you're a hard worker. I said, well, thank you. He said, but you're not here much. Picky. He said, do you think you might have a problem with alcohol? I said, no, but I know what the problem is. He said, well, maybe you'd share that with me. I said, it's my health. He said, really? I said, yes. Now, granted, my poor health may have something to do with my drinking. I'm going to quit drinking. My health's going to get better. Everything's going to be okay. He said, do you think you might need some help quitting drinking? I said, no, I'm just going to quit. Got up and left his office. Was to find out later his wife had been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous for many years. Can you imagine the chuckle he had as I left? Oh, he's just going to quit. That was Tuesday. I woke up Thursday in another hotel room in another town drunk. I didn't keep him waiting long. And for whatever that reason, that morning, I knew the jig was up. When you've used all the lies, You're out of line. Alcoholics are liars. I don't know what that's about. I will lie when the truth would serve me better. I am a pathological liar. I'm the type of alcoholic who goes out and plays golf all by himself and cheats on the scorecard. That's not the best part. At the end, I look at the card and go, good game, Butch, good game. So I've used all the lies. I got to come up with something good. I had a few tequilas. I turned my mind to it. And I thought, I know what I'll tell them. I'm alcoholic. I'm going to go to AA. And that's how I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And for anybody here tonight at the meeting who's new, we couldn't care less why you're here. We couldn't care less why you're here. We're just glad to see you. We're just glad to see you. And maybe by the grace of God, something you'll read, something you'll hear, something you'll see, and the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous can happen in your life. And you can go on to live a happy and useful life like so many men and women here have been able to do. Just keep coming. Just keep coming. And I have been a blessed man, as I said earlier, since the day I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. Blessed man. Deep, deep love in my heart for the old timers. Deep, deep love. Men and women who've committed a lifetime to Alcoholics Anonymous, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, who've made sacrifices and commitments to this thing so it'd be here for guys like me and the folks in the recovery home. I love them from the bottom of my heart. If you are new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I would strongly, strongly urge you, get close to these men and women and learn from their experience, because we won't have them with us forever. And I had some giants come into my life. Huh, Carl? I've heard people in Alcoholics Anonymous say you should never put people on pedestals. Well, you do what you need to do. But let me tell you something right now. I have some people on pedestals, a number of them in this room right here tonight. Never for a moment have I lost sight of their humanities. The greatest gift. My sponsor was an old timer in Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor came to Alcoholics Anonymous on July the 17th, 1958, and was an active member until the day he died on June the 10th, 2004. And the greatest gift that old man, I love that man with all my heart. The greatest gift that old man ever gave me, it wasn't some profound thing he pulled out of the book, some divine spiritual wisdom he laid on me. The greatest gift that old man ever gave me was he allowed me to see his warts. He allowed me to see him get afraid. He allowed me to see him get angry. He allowed me to see him get selfish. Allowed me to see him get lustful. Allowed me to see all of him. Because if he hadn't, and you don't continue to, I will never measure up. We are much more brothers and sisters in our defects than we are in our virtues, aren't we? And I had some wonderful people come into my life. You see, you're the very first people who helped me understand what my problem was. I don't know about any of you. Maybe you knew what your problem was when you got to Alcoholics Anonymous, but I can assure you I didn't. Now, I'd been told what my problem was. As a matter of fact, I had quite a few people. My wife told me what my problem was. My parents had told me what my problem was. I had a few judges tell me what my problem was. A couple psychiatrists had told me. I'd heard all my life, just quit drinking and you'll be okay. I'd heard that forever. You were the first people that said to me, no, kid, drinking's not your problem. It's your solution. How I feel when I'm sober is my problem. You see, sober, I'm prone to misery and depression. Sober, I can't seem to control my emotional natures. Sober, I can't form true relationships with others. Sober, I can't seem to be of real help or make a living. Sober, I'm full of fear and unhappy. Sober, I'm restless, irritable, and discontented. Friends, that is a spiritual malady. That is an unmanageable life. And it is that spiritual malady that triggers the obsession in me. And then I pick up that drink and the craving starts and I'm off to the races one more time. I had no idea. I didn't have a clue. You told me that selfishness and self-centeredness was the root of my troubles. I didn't do an inventory and go, my, you haven't been a very nice boy. I did not need to inventory to find out I was a liar, cheat, and thief. I knew that. But I had no idea of the depth of my selfishness. I had no idea of how self manifests in my life in many different ways, and that's what blocks me from the power for me to be sober. I didn't know. And you told me that this selfishness and self-centeredness was the root of my troubles, the root. There was a lot of problems that people could see, but that was the root of them. And from my selfishness and self-centeredness comes 100 forms of fear and all my resentments, but all based in self. And you told me that above everything, I must be rid of it or else it will kill me. And there seems no way of getting rid of it without God's help. And that, you told me, is the purpose of our 12 steps in our program. Through some actions that I take and some principles I try to live by, I can get connected to a power that would solve my problem. I thank God for strong sponsorship. I am the product of strong sponsorship, and I believe in strong sponsorship. And I am a guy that believes that without strong sponsorship, our chances of recovery become very, very limited. And so I am so very grateful. And you took me through that process that we're not going to go into tonight, but I thank God for that direction. I need that. You took me through inventory, a fact-finding mission. You helped me to see some chunks of truth about myself. I was able to get free from that stuff. You took me through inventory, an incredibly freeing process for a guy that was wrapped up in self the way I was. I don't know about any of you, but for my entire life, when I was a kid in school, they had the kids that did good in school. I hated their guts, those kids. I hated them. I didn't know why then. I know why now. I didn't feel as good as those kids. That's the truth of it. Then they had the kids behind the school who start to smoke and drink and cause some trouble. That's where I hung out because I felt a little sharper than most of those kids. But I'm going to tell you, for my entire life, for when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and for a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, and today, if I'm not in fit spiritual condition, the first thing I did with every single person I ever met, the moment I meet them, I size myself up automatically. And every single time, I am either better than or less than. Not one single time was I the same as. And through the process of amends, through making things right, through these actions, today, I can just be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, no better than and no less than. Today, I can just be one of God's children, same as you. That is a freeing process for a guy who is so wrapped up in self, whose everything I did in my life depended on what you thought of me. You dictated how I ran my life. Incredible. And never even knew that I was doing it. It was as automatic to me as breathing. I've listened to people debate in a meeting for 45 minutes whether they were recovered or recovering. Smoke starts coming out my ears, for Christ's sakes. I've never heard anything so crazy in my life. Our book is very, very clear on that. Very clear. But I thank God where you showed me in the book where it says that we are not cured of alcoholism. What I have is a daily reprieve that's contingent upon the maintenance of my spiritual condition. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. It is easy. I want to share with you that sometimes the longer I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, the easier I become judgmental. Now, I know you don't get judgmental in California. You don't have to worry about it. But in Canada, we do. Very judgmental. Sometimes look what they're doing at that group. Look what's going on over there. Huh? Very easy. So I tell you, the longer I'm here, sometimes the harder it is for me to come to you and tell you I'm dying inside and I don't know what to do. Because I've been sober a long time and I'm an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous and I want you to think I have it all together. It is easy to let up in the spiritual program action. Self is cunning, baffling, and powerful. That ego rebuilds without me ever knowing it's rebuilding. That's why I'm here in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous with you. I am more active and in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous than I've ever been in my life, and I'm staying right there. I ain't going anywhere. Because let me tell you this, I have a lot more to lose today than I did on September the 21st, 1989. I'm staying close to you guys because you can help me see self. Self cannot. And you introduced me to a loving God. Incredible thing. Incredible thing. If you'd have asked me when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, do you believe in God? I would have said to you, yes, I do. It had as much meaning in my life as the price of coffee beans in Brazil tonight, but I wasn't a disbeliever. Chuck Chamberlain used to say that we have one problem and only one problem. And from that one problem comes all our other problems. But that one problem is a conscious separation from God. And if you'd asked me about God, God was way up there in heaven. And he had long hair and a beard and a big stick. And if you were good, good things happen. And if you were bad, bad things happen. Well, if God's way up there and I'm down here, have you ever heard more of a conscious separation in your life? You were the first people that said to me, no, kid, deep down inside of every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. And in the final analysis, it is only there that he may be found. And the central fact of my life, the great reality, is my Creator has entered my heart and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. You introduced me to that power, to that God, through listening to your stories. That's why we tell our stories in AA. That is the purpose of an AA talk. Through our own language and our own point of view, how we're able to find a power. So I listened to your stories and I watched your kind deeds and I came to believe. And over time with some actions, I got this thing. You know, I love the language of Bill Will. What time we quick? 5 to 9, Carl? We got, what time? Okay. I'm going to talk quick. I love the language of Bill Wilson, don't you, in our book? The longer I'm sober, the more I see it, the more it resonates. I think that book is a spiritual vortex. There's no end to it. There's no end. But I love that line where he says, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could never do for ourselves. I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I pray God you stay and take these actions, and I promise you will. But there will be a day when you will read something, you will hear something or see, and all of a sudden you will know. You know, sometimes I often come to be with you people in different places, and I go to the airport and I leave my home and I drive down the highway. It's a 40-minute drive to the airport. And it's a beautiful sunny day. And I stick a little Leonard Skinner in, a little free bird. And I'm driving down that highway and the sun is shining and I'm coming to be with you. And I think about what you've done for me in my life. And the tears pour down my face. And in that moment, I am conscious of the presence of God. And I go from believing to knowing. And there is a big difference. If believing was enough, we would only need 2 steps. And that moment that I have every now and then keeps me moving in Alcoholics Anonymous. And you introduced me to that God. And the great paradox, if we want to keep it, we got to give it away. That nothing ensures us immunity from drinking like intensive work with other alcoholics. Intensive work. When all else fails, this works. The occasional good deed is not enough. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends upon our constant thought of others. Constant. Unless I continue to enlarge and perfect my spiritual life through unselfish acts and helping others, I will surely drink when we hit those certain low spots. If you were here in Alcoholics Anonymous and came and fell in love with this program from day one and you've been sober a few years and everything's going wonderful, buckle up. Buckle up. Because life will happen. Life will happen. And when it does, I better be connected to some power. Connected. Not believing, connected to. And the great gift that we've been given. After we've been given much, haven't we? We have been given much. If that wasn't enough, you and I are then given the ability to change people's lives. That's not an ego statement. That is a statement with gratitude and with humility. You and I, when armed with facts about ourselves and this solution, are able to make the difference in a few short hours. Once we can win the entire confidence of another alcoholic, when nobody else is able to, we can win the entire confidence of another alcoholic. Until we do, nothing or little happens for them. Uniquely gifted to help others. Powerful, powerful thing. Everything in my life that is good is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything that I am or ever hope to be is because of people like you in rooms this live. My wish and my prayer tonight is those folks in early recovery that you stay here. You know, I heard a thing, I got 2 minutes, I'm done. I heard a guy, since a number of the people here, maybe some of you knew him, I sure he was dead, but Joe Leith, Wino Joe from Tyler, Texas. And I heard Joe making a talk one time on a CD, and he was at a convention. And he said from the front of the room, before he made his talk, he asked who the people were in their first year, let themselves be known. And he said, you're the only people in this room tonight that I envy. And I was new when I listened to this. And when I first heard him say that, I thought, oh, that sounds nice, but you don't mean that. And then he said, he followed with this. He said, because you're about to embark on a journey that is absolutely second to none. Absolutely second to none. And I want to let you guys know, those new folks here, the folks in the houses and that you're about to embark on a journey that's absolutely second to none. Don't listen to this. Don't go to meetings and don't drink crap. Don't listen to that nonsense. You get yourself a sponsor and dig in and get into work, and you'll live a life beyond your wildest dreams. Everything that I have in my life is because of you. You've never asked me for a single solitary thing since the day I've come here. You've merely said to me, maybe take a new guy to a couple of meetings. Maybe give him a hug and tell him he's going to be okay. I don't know how you feel about that, but it seems like a very small price for what you've done for me. I don't know what's going to happen from here on in, and none of us know for sure, do we? Huh, Joe? Just because we get sober, become members, Alcoholics Anonymous, life doesn't stop happening. People die, relationships end, businesses fail, people get sick. But I'll tell you, every single morning for many, many years now, including first thing this morning, I say to that loving God that you introduced me to, if you see fit, I sure would appreciate it if you keep me in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because my dear friends, there's no place in this world I'd rather be than right here with you fine people. Thank you and God bless you.